So, Thunderbolts happened. Some people are saying Marvel is back. Some people are saying meh. Find out what we think on this episode of The Silver Site. We might keep that. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, guys. So Thunderbolts happened this past weekend, and we all spent our money to go to the theaters, and we have kind of mixed reactions. Some things we liked, some things we didn't. I saw, a good amount of discourse online about Marvel being back, and I saw some people thinking it was mid, and some people hated it. So let's just jump into it. What y'all boys think?
Overall, just to keep it short, I thought it was decent.
I'm gonna go with okay. Personally, if you just really have to put a true serum in me, just meh. It didn't really do too much. I struggled with it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll say this. I thought it was mid. It wasn't the worst Marvel movie, but it damn sure wasn't the best. And I got a lot of Marvel's back. This is what we've been waiting for. No, you just haven't been watching like Agatha all along and some of the good Disney Plus shows. Marvel's been back, but you guys want the same generic white people in the main Avengers cast that you're not going to get back because they're dead. Some of them are dead, and they're not coming back. What's up, Shayna?
I do have to back you up on that. Hey, Shayna, because it's the mediocre part with it, but it's also the fact that everyone's saying, "Oh, is Marvel back? Is Marvel back?" The best movie is no spoilers. Oh yeah.
Is I don't know.
We can go no spoilers. It's not that serious.
It's not that serious. Yeah, we're not going to give away important plot points because
there were none. I'll rip that Band-Aid off.
But I really think that the movie tried to deliver something that we've already seen, because Gerald and I were talking about this behind the scenes about how that just the tone of it is something that was kind of just average. I feel like throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, I'll chalk it up to recency bias, mainly because I think what we continue to get over the past few films has been like everybody's waiting for this thing to blow, and it's just not doing it. But I kind of feel like the way people are framing it, and they're saying different things about the what they were dealing with. I think they've done it better in other movies. Now, those other movies may not be overall better, but of course that's up for debate. But I feel like we've seen these elements dealt with in better ways, and I could definitely say that Guardians 3 did it better. And even if you didn't feel like Wakanda Forever was that great of a movie, if you want to compare it to the original, I think they did it better in there too.
I think so. And, RJ mentioned it as far as people coming, saying stuff like Marvel's back and all this. Is like, well, I mean, we had Captain America, Brave New World, and I thought that was, probably the best way to start off the year as far as a Marvel movie. Yeah. And this, we still have, a couple of movies left in the year. We have Fantastic Four. But I feel like, as Gerald mentioned too, that, there's certain tones for different movies, but it still feels like they're doing the same thing. And especially, with the jokes, we'll get to that in just a moment. But I just feel like there's just so many things that are just not layered in this movie.
And you know what? Like, thinking about it, this movie was better than Black Widow, but it wasn't better than Black Panther 2. But it also wasn't worse than Iron Man 3. But it was better than Ant-Man Quantumania, but not better than Shang-Chi.
It's like because there's so many movies that are like they have the same I guess like mission for these characters to take down a certain person that's behind the scenes. But what this did differently, I think, was dive into more of the persona of that like darker side with the Void and Bob Reynolds, Sentry, which was good, and Contessa being the villain behind the scenes was great, of course, because she was the bad guy in this movie.
I love Contessa. Yeah. Also, I call her Elaine from Seinfeld. Like every time she's on the screen, I'm like, Elaine. Yeah, right. But to me, Shannon, the last great Marvel movie, I wouldn't say the last great Marvel movie, but to me, the last great Marvel project for me was Agatha All Along. That probably was the best Marvel project recently, but this was not the movie that is going to revive Marvel. And I don't know if it's Sinners bias, because like when you walk out of a movie like Sinners and then you walk into a movie like Thunderbolts, it's like, oh, okay, no, yeah,
See, and I guess I 100% didn't think that at all, because I knew we were getting something tonally totally different. So I didn't go into it trying to compare that, because I would never,
yeah,
do a disservice to an original IP versus an IP that's what 36 films, and not even talking about the TV stuff, just
Yeah, the
36
shows.
films, in. So I didn't really go there. I was more I was more relying to just say I felt like they just were. I think they were trying to feed us mediocrity, and it's packaged up with with this ensemble cast.
And I do agree with that to an extent too, but I also, to add on what you were saying, I think what Marvel's doing, and Gerald, you might agree, I think they're still kind of playing it by the book. I don't think they're taking too many risks, because
fair.
this is not to say that this
They're
movie
still doing the
was,
same thing.
yeah, not to say that this movie was a risk. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just
It
saying
wasn't
that I
at
think,
all, yeah.
yeah, because I think this was the perfect movie to do something like that, but it was just so stale.
Mhm.
And especially, I mentioned in one of my videos that I do on TikTok, as I talk about comic books. So if you like TikTok, follow me on there. But one of the things is that I don't like what Marvel does is this pattern in their movies, how they have it's not just the lines, it's delivering the true meaning of the mission. And I feel like it's just the same thing over and over that we've seen, because I feel like this kind of had like some Captain America coded
Agreed.
features to it in some
Yeah.
ways. And
Yeah.
it's hard to do, but this movie still could have been its own thing, and it was. But I feel like it just fell through.
Here's my issue with, and I think that maybe I would have enjoyed the movie better if they learned how to insert humor where the humor belongs. For me,
Yeah,
I feel like it's the problem I have with Guardians of the Galaxy 2. There'd be a totally intense, like crazy situation where you should feel danger. You should feel like, well, people can die in this universe. Are they going to make it? And they insert like a joke, or they try to lighten the tone when the scene doesn't call for that. And for me, that's where Marvel movies fall short. And this is formulaic with Marvel. Like you said, I forgot who said it earlier, but this isn't anything that we haven't already seen. And I
yeah,
think that's what bothers me with Century having, the backstory that he has with his schizophrenia and stuff like that. There's so much more that could have been done with this. I don't know. I just feel like I don't know what I was expecting. Like I said, I wasn't expecting Sinners, and I don't want y'all to think that I'm thinking like, oh, it's gonna be as good as Sinners. I'm more so talking about when you come from eating like filet mignon, and then like, oh, you go somewhere else, and then it's like, well, here's a DiGiorno pizza. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
and what the problem I think too is with the jokes and the lines in that movie, and a lot of these Marvel movies, like you were mentioning, is that don't do it in a way to where it feels out of place. I mean, you can do it with Guardians, but there's sometimes, yeah, there's things that it's forced, and it feels
Agreed.
like it's not. The lines that they're given are just they try to make you laugh on purpose without just like being something more sarcastic. They could have said, they could have thrown in like a sarcastic line, but like stuff like that in Guardians, yeah, some of those characters are meant to be silly, but yeah, in serious, sometimes moments like that, you don't have to force the lines.
it's forced. It's a constantly forced humor. And then I I don't want to give a spoiler, so I'll just say this: when I saw that it was a ragtag team of unreliable heroes, and I knew that they were going to, and like I said, it's a movie, so we know it's formulaic. So I'm not really giving a spoiler. I knew that was going to be how they defeated the villain, and and I hate that trope. Like, you mean to tell me this all powerful person who's literally taking people to the shadow realm, and the power of friendship is what?
Because everybody, let's sing Kumbaya.
Yeah, it's like what? I don't know.
I promise. It took everything in me not to almost get up and say, this is really what y'all gonna do. Okay.
Because I know some people appreciate that, and I understand it's a concept because, for some people it meant a lot to them as far as, a mental health movie or whatever the case is for that, and I completely understand that. That's not, I would never take that away, but I feel like they still could have did it in a different way because it wasn't.
You know what? That's okay to do, but the problem is it's being almost lamented as if that's the movie to take them over the hump, take us over the hump.
Yeah,
that's it.
And we've seen this before. We just haven't addressed it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess for lack of a better term, on such a normal level. Like they did try to kind of normalize it and not make it like, okay, well, we know they're quote unquote superheroes, because that was one reason why they kept going with the whole idea of, oh, well, we can't, we don't have really any superpowers per se. We just shoot. Basically.
Yeah.
So they kind of try to kind of temper it that way. My only concern with that, though, is now we got people talking about this movie as if it's the movie to introduce us to mental health and things. And I was just like, what are y'all talking about?
No. Yeah, because Shana brings up a good point. Like, I feel like it probably would have been better as a TV show. For like maybe a couple episodes, I guess that probably would have been. Spend a little bit more time with the characters too. But what this movie did is, like, I mean, we've seen stuff with this similar to that, like with Moon Knight and all that, with that situation as Gerald keeps mentioning. Because, but it's not just that they're copying and pasting these other parts of the movies that they've taken from. It's a repeated cycle that I just mentioned, because it seems like the jokes, the lines, and the story is like how they, like RJ mentioned, how they take down someone is still.
Well, that's the Marvel. What we call it? That's the Marvel
formula. Yeah. So I think we're kind of tired of that. But like like I said, you gotta take more risks. Like I think there needs to be more cameos in certain movies, and there needs to be a little bit more excitement, because this movie is exciting.
They missed a great opportunity. As much as they talked about somebody in that scene, they could have easily done that, and basically where that person debated that whole idea of what was going on with the brand. Like that was a perfect opportunity to at least return the favor, because they didn't need what they did in the movie before this, and then they could have brought that person in, because just speaking the name, to me, it made it sound like a hater. It's like, what are y'all do? What y'all trying to make? Oh wow, we're gonna turn him into a hater? And, oh man, I was.
Wow. I don't know. Another thing I didn't like too, I feel like for a contestant to be as smart as she was, I feel like, yes, she had a contingency plan for when things, whatever. But I also feel like, did you really think that you would be able to manipulate that man enough to the point where he wouldn't do it?
Yeah. But I think she did. Honestly, I think she did. I think she really was that arrogant in believing that, because she had already set it up. Because it was funny how she did it when she first met him, like, and then they purposely made him look at something, and so I just
no more cameos, please, or else it'll turn into a Deadpool movie.
Well, it wouldn't have been that. No, it wouldn't. It definitely would have been that, Shayna. But had they done this particular cameo, it would have. I think it would have gone over more. For me, it would have gone over better, because it took away like this. Like, we're basically talking about this person behind their back. We're not really, having a real conversation, about what the context really is,
Did you guys feel like this movie was a little fast too? And I know I missed the first 10 minutes, but I feel like it happened really fast. There was a shoot scene, and then they were at the final battle scene really quick, and I'm like, I know this ain't the final showdown.
The fight scenes felt really short, and I think it was too that made the movie feel so short. Gerald, you might agree with me on this as well. I mentioned in my video that where these characters ended up, the places that they had these conversations just felt weird. It felt like there was nothing happening in the background. It felt like, there's certain things, like, when I'm trying to not spoil it, but like there's certain stuff, like when things were at a devastating point, there were some scenes where it just felt like the people in the background were just, I don't know, just
Well, they were literally having conversations where you would probably think there should be action.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's because it's like, why are you putting these conversations that they're having in these awkward places? And it just felt the conversation.
It didn't feel cohesive to me.
Yeah.
As a film, it felt like this is what people expect us to do, so we're gonna do it. I feel like a lot of people are just like craving like anything from Marvel because they haven't been hitting lately, and things are getting canceled and changed and stuff like that. So I think this is sort of like a starvation film where people just ate it up because it's nowhere near as I don't say Guardians of the Galaxy was life changing, but I love Guardians of the Galaxy. Like that's probably like one of my favorite. 1 and 2 are probably one of my favorite, top Marvel movies. But I feel like this just was, and I don't want to say it's a cash grab. I don't want to say that because these characters do matter in the long scheme of things. I just feel like it was like, okay, it's time for us to release another project. We haven't really dove into the world of these characters yet, or this comic book story, or these characters. Let's just put something out. And I'll never. Well, I'm a hater, not as big a hater as Kendrick, but I'm a hater. And so, like, I can always find a way to hate on something, but I can't find a way to hate on somebody on just you want to make money. But this just felt like, hey, it's time for a Marvel project, so here you go.
I kind of feel like it was because again, I don't feel like it was a cash grab like you said. But I do feel like that they were trying to push something into the Marvel story. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were trying to push something into the universe that didn't really sit well, at least with the story or like how they're going to move things forward. And I just feel like it just was dry.
Yeah, that was kind of one of my things. I was so frustrated when I was trying to come up with my reaction to where I started getting long-winded about the idea of what I really was watching. And so I knew that I felt like it wasn't the best thing I had seen since Endgame, but I also knew this wasn't the first time I was watching something about, traumatic things that have happened in characters' past.
Yeah.
And they went heavy-handed with it, which I was fine with that. I was not disappointed with that, but I feel like when people are leeching on to the idea that this movie did it better than any other film, it's like, come on, no,
I
you
think
did not.
that's what my issue with it was. It wasn't necessarily the film; it was the people acting like this was the saving grace of Marvel. Like this just breathed life back into a dying IP. Like, no,
absolutely not. Because RJ, you're gonna be completely honest.
Yeah.
Ant-Man Quantumania and Thor: Love and Thunder are like at the bottom of the list, and like the other Marvel movies are at the top. Especially Thunderbolts. Black Widow's definitely better than all those other movies I just mentioned. So but I don't know why I feel like this was like out of place. Because one thing I also didn't like, as you mentioned, because I want to say this before I forget. That took me out of the movie was the lines that were for Red Guardian. They were just so corny and
cheerleader. They had him as this weird, awkward girl dad cheerleader. And he was, come on, guys, we can do it. We can do it with this crazy accent. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Bro, Jay, thank you for saying that. Because like it's so funny because I didn't go to like a Regal or AMC. I went to a really small local theater that we have here just to kind of, give it back to the local community. Everybody went to the IMAX to see Sinners, so I said, let me go here. And so there weren't a lot of people in the theater, and that's not the point. But I feel like when I tell you there's not a single line that came out of that man's mouth that produced a chuckle for anybody in my audience. And I don't know if it's because like I'm tired of Marvel humor or like it wasn't funny. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'm just tired of it. But nobody else laughed at his jokes. It seemed like they were so like shoehorned into every scene. It was like every time the camera was on him, his character had to ham it up. And I'm not, putting that on the actor because you have to lines, you have to, go as directed. But like for me, just the writing of those jokes, like you can have an organically funny action comedy and have it like it was the vibes were Pluto Nash. And I was like,
And my thing, RJ, too, is that okay? So I think it is the Marvel formula strictly, and certain writers that they do have because they're doing this over and over again to where they make these lines seem like they're funny, but they're forced and they're not funny. So when I was watching the movie, I was just kind of like just dry stale because it really just didn't do anything for me in terms of because again, I think Marvel takes a certain character, or at least maybe one or two, in movies, and they have to lighten up this tone to make it seem like everything's going to be okay in the end. But it's like, no, you know what? Some movies just need to be dark.
They have to have stakes. They have to just have real stakes.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, I was like, okay. When they did one part and one part like towards in the third act, I was like, okay, maybe they can redeem it and leave it like real, not ambiguous, but just leave it in a space where I'm like, are they going to really be able to get out of this, or do they need to continue this in another film? And then as soon as they undid everything, I was just like, huh.
And that's how I felt too, Gerald. I'm glad you brought that up too, because I know the scene you're talking about, because I feel like I was like, okay, there might be something that's going to happen that could, affect the event or lead up to an event. Something might happen to someone, but no, it wasn't, because power friendship.
And what I want to say too is like, we're not dumb. We know that there's going to be other movies and things like that. And so we're not saying that we don't care about what comes to follow. We know this could be a setup movie. I think our issue is like not y'all, but like most of the people that are talking about, or a lot of people that are talking about this movie, are not treating it as if it were a setup movie. Like, like this was, if anything, this was a movie to set up bigger things later on. This was not the movie for Marvel to like come back with. To me, like, it just didn't cook the way they thought it was. Now, plot wise, I did enjoy the story where it's like, oh, she brought us here to do this, and like, oh, we got something for that ass. Like, okay, I can eat that. Like, I can get with a good revenge, story or whatever, ragtag revenge. But I think it was, I don't say poorly paced. It went by super quick. The jokes were dry. This is just something that, like, I don't ever think I'll put on this background noise again. I didn't hate it, but it just did nothing for me.
What would have worked out better for this is if you told each one of these characters' story in a basically in a six piece series, each of them, and then in the last one they all finally meet up and they give us about an hour and 15 minutes. Like, oh, we got to take her down. Yes. Like, you literally like how she started the film. You should have gave each one of them leading up to coming to that place where they met at the beginning. And then the last episode would have been like, let's fight it out, and then or let's fight it out and let's move to season 2. And you can just end the season with them trying to figure out how they're gonna stop, what she got going on. So it just I was pretty disappointed.
I think again, Marvel, like, movies, okay, so like this last thing I'll say as far as movies like Thunderbolts, movies that aren't like trilogies, Eternals, stuff like that. I think that if you're gonna do movies like, because I thought Eternals was good, but I think if you're gonna do movies like this, especially if there's nothing that's gonna branch off of that, you have to make a standpoint on something that's gonna like be cataclysmic or it's gonna set up a huge event, because it can't be just it's like Gerald was mentioning earlier, you just throw it in and it's just kind of just like, all right, well, it's just sitting there, but you're gonna actually like touch it, or you're actually gonna do something with it. And like Shayna said, I think it would have been better as a limited series, most definitely. So I agree with what you said. So
so we'll I guess so. Jay, you want to talk about the post credits?
Yeah. So as far as the post credits, I guess I won't like spoil it. Pretty much, I just want to like mention it. I guess
it's not conducive to the plot because, like I said, it's. Should we just?
I'll just say they could have done without both of them. For me, I feel like they could have done without both. Only reason why I say that is because it didn't connect the dots to anything major unless you're doing a whole lot of prognosticating about what's coming down the road. Other than that, it didn't do anything for me.
That's important too. I think as far as that, Oh, just spoil it. Okay,
It's
we'll
a
just
spoiler. Yeah, let's spoil it.
be ready for the Fantastic Four. But like Gerald said, there's still not a lot to mention off of this because this movie didn't connect or mention anything that was tied to this. And plus, that movie is going to take place in a whole nother universe.
Well, so this is the only thing I'll say to that thing. If the idea was them showing them coming into 616, that means that the Fantastic Four's world is going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it must mean, because
Exactly.
there's no reason for them to be coming in if everything is going to be fine in their universe.
Exactly.
So I'm going to assume Galactus wins, and there. So
yeah, that's why I assume.
Basically, what happens is like, so there's drama with
Right.
the Avengers and the world because they're calling themselves the Avengers, and then I think is it Bucky or somebody else starts? No, who starts another Avengers? Somebody starts Captain. Yeah, okay. So
John
Captain
Walker?
America starts.
No.
Yeah.
Wait, Captain America. Oh yeah.
No.
Sam.
Yeah. So they're having like a legal battle over like who are the Avengers, and basically like people on Twitter and everywhere else are like saying that the Thunderbolts, like y'all are not, like who told y'all were the Avengers, you know? So they're basically kind of like beefing over the name and the IP. And then like there's something that says, oh, incoming ship from whatever, and you see the Fantastic Four ship entering from another dimension. And I forgot what the other one was, the second post credit scene.
Was the mid credit was the serial thing.
Yeah, I was just
never mind. It was another
serial with Red Guardian. Wasn't really
boring. Yeah.
So, but I think it was overall for me. Honestly, I would have to give it a 7.4. It didn't really do me a whole lot as far as just having the excitement wasn't there. I think especially that's important in a Marvel movie. I think it wasn't there either.
6.8.
I'll give it okay. Yeah.
I'm just going 6.8. I couldn't take it much more than I couldn't even give it to a 7. Honestly, just didn't do it for me.
Yeah,
I'll give it a 6.5. Hey, like I said, I genuinely don't hate the movie. Like I know people that hated it, and I don't think it was bad to the point where I can hate it. It just didn't do anything for me. Like I walked out the theater, I didn't feel like I wasted my money. I don't feel like I wasted my time, but I also felt like I could have went to see Sinners again, or I could have did something else with these hour and whatever minutes that I spent here. So I didn't hate it, but it wasn't something that I'm like ever gonna push to watch again. So yeah,
right, yeah,
and
it wasn't terrible.
Nothing that they did really even feel like it would connect to anything going forward. They would literally have to keep reminding you this movie happened.
Yeah. But wasn't terrible. But
except
okay.
I guess except the injustice that old Taskmaster got. I was like, come on, man.
They're never gonna get that character right in this universe.
Right. Yeah.
RJ, anything else you guys say about this movie before we get out of here, man?
No, my Advil PM is kicking in, and I'm probably not going to make sense within the next 5 to 10 minutes anyway. Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to be live tomorrow, going in on Sinners again. We're doing a part 2. Yes, it was that good. This is probably the first part 2 or run it back that we've ever done on this channel. So I guess that speaks to how much we enjoy Sinners. So we'll be doing this the same time, same place tomorrow, and then Tuesday we're going to be doing the latest episode of Last of Us, which is going to premiere tonight on HBO Max or whatever the hell they're calling it now. So don't forget to follow the panel's links in the description down below. Like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Later days.
And if you love superhero content, follow me on TikTok and YouTube at Hero Harrison, and we will see y'all in the next live.
All right, later days.